Hey, how's it going? My name is Carter Redwood. I'm an actor, and I'm really honored to be a part of this series. I've known Mark for almost 20 years now, and he is responsible for starting my acting career. The first play I ever did was a play that he wrote called When the Water Turns Clear, and the rest is history since then. He's been an incredible friend, a mentor, and pretty much just family to me over the years, and has given me so many opportunities. So I'm so grateful and thankful for him, and honored to be a part of this project. This is number 48, Willie's Boy in the Burg. When I was laid up in the hospital, I fantasized about all of the fantastical things I could do to change the face of downtown Pittsburgh once I emerged from that den of pain. I imagined a strip of black businesses directly across the street from the August Wilson Center. The black-owned CVS, a barbershop, a dry cleaners, a bakery, and several restaurants offering enticing menus that could satisfy the patrons of the August Wilson Center prior to attending performances there. Yes, I dreamed about that before and after my accident. And I imagined many other black-owned businesses scattered throughout the downtown corridor. Yes, I was dream tripping. It was as if I wasted all three of my genie wishes on changing the Burg's black consensus to that of Atlanta or Chicago or, hell, even Philadelphia. Pittsburgh has never been known as being a black city, and probably never will be. But for some reason, and I can't speak for everyone, but for some reason, I think Pittsburgh is going to change. And what I mean by change is that I imagine that at some point, and hopefully before I'm dust, at some point, this city will be more hospitable to people of color. Sure, we had our jazz era in earlier decades and our 1970s sports era. It is true that many of my friends have fled this city and are now scattered across the country enjoying shopping at African American owned establishments and enjoying dining at great soul food restaurants. But there are also plenty of us that have stayed in the Burg. The reasons for staying vary. I think some of the reasons why I stay are because of my familiarity with the city and the fact that my hero, my father, is buried here. Not only is he buried here, but the strong memories of our shared experiences are etched into my mind and connected to the multitude of places that we went to together. Usually, it was as a family, but there were other times when it was just he and I. As a boy, my father took me to different places all the time. One place downtown was the pen camera store on Smithfield Street. There, he introduced me to all the men that worked there. One gentleman that we always buy items from was Mr. Walden. His son is a well-known photographer in the Dormont area. I was amazed at all the camera and darkroom equipment at Pen Camera, and I fell in love with photography. It became my occupation for well over 2 decades, including a 12-year stint with the New Pittsburgh Courier. I'm glad I was exposed to this great field at a young age. It gave me something to hold on to as I navigated my way through my early young adult life. I always loved going downtown. As a youth, my friends and I used to go to all the stores. Kaufman's, Murphy's, Grant's, McRory's, the Hobby Shop, Candyrama. The list is endless. But some things never change. Let's face it, downtown Pittsburgh has been the same, like forever. Not counting African American attorney offices, there are very few, if any, African American owned businesses in downtown Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah. The barbershop that recently got tagged with KKK and other hateful messages. Having a minute business presence in a major metropolitan city has an effect on how we're perceived and treated. One day I was downtown and I was walking past a fur coat store. I must have been in my late teens or my very early 20s. I stopped and looked through his windows at all the gorgeous full-length fur coats on the mannequins. I was amazed at how luxurious they looked. It was a world that I was unfamiliar with. I saw a female customer inside trying on a coat. I noticed how graceful the employees moved around her and how gleefully they treated her. I thought to myself, hey, I want to go in and look at something that maybe my mother might like. Or, hey, even try on a men's coat myself. I knew that there was no way I could afford anything in that store, even with a 20-year payment plan. Hell, even a layaway plan would have meant getting it right in time for my funeral. That certainly would have been a true layaway. But, hey, it wouldn't hurt to at least enjoy the experience of trying one or two on. So I went to the door and pulled, but it was locked. I tried again, and this time everyone in the store froze and stared at me. I motioned for them to open the door. I said, "Are you closed?" They didn't respond. They turned back around and went back to what they were doing. I then saw a little gold or white button. Gold sounds appropriate in my mind, but actually I think it was white for some reason. Anywho, I pushed the button, and I could hear it buzzing inside, but no one moved a muscle. So I pushed the button again, and this one man in a nice suit turns around and comes to the door and stares at me. I say, "Are you open?" He doesn't respond. I say, "I want to try on some coats." He calmly shakes his head no, all the while with a slight smirk on his face. I know that smirk, and I now know why he's refusing me entrance. Every black man reading this has been subjected to that same smirk. So without missing a beat, I say, "Oh man, my dad sent me down here to look at some coats for him, and my mother, they're supposed to be meeting me here in a little bit." He looks back over his shoulder and mouths something to an older gentleman behind the counter. An older woman walks up to him saying something. He turns back towards me and says, "Who's your father?" Without blinking an eye, I say, "Willie Stargell." He immediately opens the door and a flood of apologies begin. And then the remarks about my dad's accomplishments and even the promises of going up into the hill to buy some chicken one day. The man at the door took off my coat, and before I knew it, they were throwing fur coats on me one after another at a dizzying pace. "You're about your father's height, right?" Yeah, I think so," I replied. "But he weighs more than me," I added. Then the woman hit me with a barrage of questions about my mom, or rather, Willie's wife. "Do you happen to know what size your mother is?" I quickly said, "Your size, maybe a little taller." She turned and disappeared into a back room. The older man had now come from behind the counter. He stood real close to me. If I had a yellow pencil, I could draw for you right now what his teeth looked like. He stood inches from my face. Every tooth in his mouth was accounted for, but they had a coffee-like sheen to them. He started telling me all about Forbes Field and the games he saw there, and that he never went to Three River Stadium. I don't remember what I was, and it didn't really even matter. I was in on a Willie ticket. Let the coat trying on begin. Actually, it should be continue, but begin sounded more, help me out here, more prosmatic, if that's even a word. The woman returned with a short white fur coat and placed it on the rack that she pulled out earlier. Then she exited again into the back room for more, I guess. "Your father is a slugger, but you know that already. Strikes out a lot, but when he gets a hold of one, you can kiss it goodbye." The old man chuckled after he said that, and then it was back to business. "What time did your dad say he was coming?" "Oh, he should be here shortly," I replied. Good. And he wants one for your mother also, right?" he said while making his way back behind the counter. "Absolutely," I replied. I felt like I was untouchable being Willie's boy. Like, all of a sudden, I was the Black Prince of Pittsburgh, and I could gain admittance to anywhere in the city. Well, almost anywhere. I don't think the Duquesne Club would have cared much that I was Willie's boy. And then I was caught off guard. The momentum that I had built up suddenly slipped into reverse. "What school are you in?" the old man snapped from behind the counter. I'm not in school right now," I said cautiously. "Well, what high school did you attend?" I wanted to go to Shenley, but my parents made me go to Central Catholic." He gave me a look after that. "Why aren't you in college?" I'm taking a break. My mom's not doing too well, so I wanted to stay home and help her out. I'm starting to get nervous, and I think they all sensed it." Meanwhile, the lady has at least 5 coats on this rack for my make-believe mother to try on. Now, I'm thinking of an exit strategy. I take off the heavy mink, I think, and I say, "Let me get over to the garage and see if my dad needs help getting her out of the car." I quickly exited the store and made a beeline to Gimbel's parking garage across the street. I entered and then exited the other exit that led out on Liberty and went on about my day. Hey, I got to try on some nice fur coats. I was happy. I didn't feel guilty about the scam one bit. I chalked it off to my reparation debt. I had met Willie Startle several times before and after, but I never said anything. Besides, I think he would have just chuckled at the whole situation. I drive by that same store every evening on my way to rehearsal. I can't tell you what color the doorbell is, but I see it's still there. It's not white, though. Probably bronze, I'm thinking now. Yes, Pittsburgh has a long way to go for African Americans to really feel welcome. Although that experience happened 3 decades ago, I'm quite sure my son will experience the same or similar denials once he starts visiting downtown establishments. It's a struggle. But the ones who have stayed here and are raising their families are trying to make this truly a great place to live. Onward. Thank you for listening and watching, and if possible, please donate to our Actors Assistance Fund. You can find the link below this video. Thanks.